Hello guys, welcome back to the technical series. This one is going to be on the barbell back squat. So what are our aims here position wise? We're trying to ideally get our hips below our knees, which looks like this, if our mobility allows it. Now, this has been a little bit of a debate across the fitness world, whether full range of motion squat is ideal or not. There's been studies to suggest that a full range of motion squat, which for the most part is, again, hips below knees, is more ideal or has more benefits all across the board. If you're looking at it through the lens of performance or any specific needs, then for sure there's room to negotiate with that. But for the general population, ideally you're trying to get to your full range of motion for every exercise, including the barbell back squat. However, context is key. Using blanket statements is always a slippery slope. So understanding what you're doing it for and how you can apply that is key. Full range of motion, for me and for my clients, is usually the go-to. This will ensure that we're taking our joints through a healthy range of motion and not trying to reduce that range of motion, because across time, longevity is also important. Again, this full range of motion shouldn't change no matter on the load. Of course, there's going to be debate on that, but even if you're going for a PB and you're lifting at 200 kilos, you should still have the same range of motion as if you're lifting at 60 kilos. So if you see anyone out there with half reps, just because they're going for a PB, call them out. So just breaking it down position by position and hopefully giving you some tips so that you can make sure you've got a checklist in your head to perform the perfect squat. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. When I approach the bar, I make sure that my grip is just outside shoulder width. Again, this can vary from person to person. We're going to step underneath the bar, take it off safely, and we're going to take one step back. Now, when I'm performing my squats, I want to make sure that everything is the same every time, like I've said before. So we want to make sure that our posture is the same. We want to make sure that our foot position is the same before we even start our reps. This will ensure that we've got consistency across reps and across sets. Now I know, you might be wondering, how in one clip do you have a jobby trim, and the next you have a fresh trim? I filmed these a few days apart. To initiate the squat, I'm going to keep my elbows up nice and high. By pulling my elbows back and up, that will keep my shoulder blades pinned together. It will create a good platform for that bar to sit on nice and comfortably, and it will make sure that I've got enough tension in the upper back. From here, I'm going to take a big deep breath in before I then lower into my squat, nice and controlled, hit that full depth that we're looking for, and then I'm going to think about pushing up nice and powerfully. That big deep breath that I take creates pressure in the periphery or in the diaphragm. This helps make sure that we've got enough tension throughout the whole body to deal with the load and to then push it or pull it depending on what movement we're doing. If you imagine two cans, there's an empty can and a full can. That empty can has no pressure at all. You could squash it, crumple it pretty easily. The full can has enough pressure in it to probably hold my whole body weight. So think about this when we're doing our exercises. Now, when it comes to my positioning, I like to think about pulling the ground apart or ripping the ground apart with my toes or with the ball of my foot. This is just a good tip or a good pointer to make sure that you've got enough tension and enough slight external rotation at the hip to keep the knees over the toes, which is important, to make sure that we're pushing through the floor with even distribution of weight, basically to make sure that we're nice and balanced. As you can see, if I do the opposite of that and I let my knees kind of cave in and I let my ankles cave in, my heels come off the floor, the weight isn't distributed evenly across my foot, my knees start to cave in, things start to look a bit ropey, and the last thing we want is an injury. So it's just making sure that you're using these little tips to make sure that you're squatting with efficiency. Now remember, everyone's range of motion will be different. Everyone's squat will look slightly different. My squat might look different to yours, your squat might look different to someone else's. It's just making sure that we're trying to get as full range of motion as possible. Something that might help with getting that full depth, if you struggle with that mobility-wise, is elevating the heels. This creates less flexion at the ankle, which some people struggle with, and it helps get us into that maximum flexion at the knee and hip that we're looking for. So, if you're struggling with your squats, hitting that full depth, simply elevate your heels and see how you get on. Okay, hopefully that step-by-step guide on how I perform my squat can help some of you guys. Take care and stay tuned for the next one.